I just finished my 6th grade, and in Holland you teach up till 6th grade and then the children go to upper school. And so next summer, after the summer break, I will teach grade 1 again. And that will be my last cycle before I retire. So, and I worked for 8 years as a remedial teacher. We call it remedial teacher, educational support teacher. But that was at the time we met, right? So that was at the end of the 1980s, 1990, yeah. And I did that for 8 years. And that, my school gave me full, how do you call it? We say, in French they say carte blanche. You know what that is? Yeah, carte blanche. So they just asked me to work with these children. And I said, what should I do then? And then, well, do anything. So, and then, do anything. Yeah, but that was at the end of the 80s. So you can imagine. Remedial work was not done, especially not in Europe, because the class teachers were supposed to heal the children and so forth and so forth. So it took quite a time to understand and to recognize that there were some children that cannot be helped by the class teaching alone. And that was coming first in public schools, and then it took a while before World of Education recognized that. So I was one of the first who did that, who started that. And I just realized the other day that the first time I met Audrey McEllen, that was 32 years ago. So we are in the 33rd year of this meeting. I just realized the other day. So you know about the rhythms, right? Yeah. So talking about rhythms, and the topic for this morning lecture is speaking about the archetypes, because working with the archetypes and connecting with the archetype of the human being is what is behind the extra lesson. So one of the archetypes is the rhythm of 33, and you know where this rhythm comes from because it's connected with, let's say, the world spirit. And another rhythm we know from anthroposophical work and from our world of education is the rhythm of 7 years. Or let's say the rhythm of 7 days even. But this rhythm of 7. This rhythm that something which is in process has always to take 7 steps to go from the one point to the next one. And maybe you've experienced that when you are working with children in your educational support work, that when you work with them on a weekly basis, once a week, I mean, then after 7 weeks something happens. And you're not really aware of it, but something. Maybe they break an arm, or go to their, how do you say it, hairdresser? Yeah, or they say something funny to you, and then it shows you that something is in process. And that's a rhythm of 7. You will recognize that. That's an archetype. This rhythm of 7. Buy flowers in the flower store and put them in a vase on your table, and then you have to go next week for the next ones because it's a rhythm of 7. You see, 7 days or 7 weeks or 7 months and so forth. So, and then of course we have this rhythm of 12, which is not connected with the planets and with these planetary forces, but with the zodiac. So we have the 7 planets and the 7 signs of the zodiac. So the rhythm of 12 is something different. So that's why ideally you plan a term of 3 months, which is 12 weeks to work with the child. And I think even more ideally is that you have, well, nowadays it's difficult to do, but that you work a full year, so 12 months. So that's what Audrey McEllen did when she worked with these youngsters in her apartment or in her house. It was in her house. She worked with them for a year, on a weekly basis. So, and that's because you are taking them through all the signs of the zodiac. And where can we find it? Well, some of you might have lose a nail on your toe, your big toenail. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, and then it gets off, or you have a blue, I don't know what's it called, a blue spot on it somewhere, and it takes a full year to grow. So there is this rhythm of 12. So that's also an archetype. And so in one way or another, we are all connected to these rhythms that are there, to these pictures that are there. And what is this world of the archetypes is behind the extra lesson. So that's something we should realize. Because there are two ways of working with the children. Of course, when you are a teacher and you have the child, you meet the individual. You're an individual, you bring your own destiny and you bring your own qualities and also your own mistakes, which we have to face as well, right? But we are adults, so we can work on it. And then you meet the individual child, which brings his own difficulties, which brings his own challenges, we say nowadays. But we mean difficulties, don't we? Yeah. Yeah. So, and then in this meeting, there are these two individuals that meet on this physical level. And we have to be having consciousness that there are also our angels that meet. So that's one layer on the physical. We meet. There's the next layer. That there's in the spiritual world also a meeting between two spiritual beings that guide us, guides the child, guide us. But there are more layers. And so in this individual meeting, there is this contact between you and the child, or the child and you. And you have to work on that, and you go on a path. But there is more. And what extra lesson does is that it goes to, let's say, not on the individual level, but on higher levels. That's I have to get into the language first before, but we get there. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? Okay, so like in the verse we started with, that there it says that the real being of man, the real being of humanity, the real being of that's a picture of the human being, right? That's an objective, real picture of the human being. And of course we have the individual. And this relation between the one and the other, between the objective image of the human being and the individual, that is what you work on with the extra lesson. And that's one of the things that Audrey McAllen worked on very strongly. That was a lot of times that was misunderstood. So when the first edition of Extra Lesson came out, it was a very thin, tiny book, blue with not many pages. And well, people got it and started reading it and said, oh, where are only the exercises, no explanation, nothing in it. And then they said, oh, what is this? These are funny things. This is not artistic. This is a recipe book. All these kinds of, it only says instruction, do you with your right foot this way, with your left foot that way, with your hand that. What does it mean? Even the spiral is the wrong way. That's what people said. So, and actually, it is a recipe book. But what do you do with a recipe book? Put it on the shelf and have it stand there? No, that's not supposed to. You have to use it and start cooking, right? So, and then when you start cooking, you do first what the recipe says. So you bake a cake or whatever. You put flour and butter and milk and eggs and sugar, and you start mixing, and you bake your cake, and you hope it will turn out right, and you don't open the oven too early so that it comes down. So then you succeed, and then when you have repeated that, and then one day you think, maybe I could do some extra chocolate powder in it, and then I can have a chocolate cake. But you stick to the recipe first, and then you can go into this, starting working with it. And that's actually, Extra Lesson is a recipe book where you have to start cooking. So, and then most people that judged it as a recipe book and put it aside, didn't start cooking. Most of them. So, and others did, and started working with it. And well, one of the things was that that people recognized that what was behind it, well, first thing is that it started working. that children changed by doing these exercises, and people were wondering what's happening. Well, anyway, so this is this connection with the archetype of the human being, this not going on the individual path, but this connection with the archetype. And that's one of the things which is not just behind extra lesson, but which is, to my opinion, being a class teacher, I can say so, it's behind the whole curriculum. That's what I think. So, like I said, this rhythm of 7, these 7 phases of development, nobody goes in rhythm of 7, nobody. Because we all have our individual rhythms. That's what we have. So we have children that speed up a little, and they're a little bit ahead of the others. There are some that are a little bit back. And sometimes you can have in your classes, when you're not really working with the archetype, that you have 3 ages in your class. You agree? So you have 2 old children in your class. You have a middle section, and you have a lot nowadays, a lot of 2 young children. So you're meeting the children with the Waldorf curriculum. Let's say grade 4, after they crossed the Rubicon, but half of the class didn't because they are too young. And part of the class, but some of them already went through it and are in the next stage in their development, and they're all sitting in the same class.